For a while on this channel, I was very critical of ESPN and their coverage of what I felt like were the two best teams in basketball at the moment, because everything about how ESPN was covering the NBA at the time, especially a few months ago, was so LeBron centric, so Celtic centric, so New York Knicks centric that you could almost forget that the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Oklahoma City Thunder have the records that they do have right now. But I think ESPN has done a pretty good job of rectifying that, right? You see Oklahoma City on television all the time. You see the Cleveland Cavaliers on television all the time. They're being discussed. And part of this is because the Cavs and the Oklahoma City Thunder have forced the issue, especially the Cavs as of late, have really forced that issue, because not only are they playing on national TV, they're making statements on national TV. Now, hopefully that's a trend that continues with the Boston Celtics as the next game the Cleveland Cavaliers have on the docket. But the Cavs are forcing the issue. ESPN is following suit and letting everybody know, even the casual audience, hey, this Cavs team, it's a little bit different. We're going to go to a clip from First Take. Now, because this clip is from First Take, the video is going to be heavily distorted. It's going to look crazy when I show it on screen. So if you're wondering why the video looks like that, it is because I am not trying to get copyright claim, even though this is fair use under the law. YouTube's content ID system sometimes will flag, well, not sometimes, will flag you if they sent another clip, even though, again, this is transformative under fair use.
Yeah! The boy is back! What's going on, Tim Lake? What up, baby? Give it up to me, Molly, right here. I see you shake. It's another A-list. It ain't the NFL season, damn it. It's the NBA season. This is my wheelhouse, shake. Pay attention with your hating self. I got a top 5 list coming at you. The top 5 challengers to the Boston Celtics. All right, we gonna start it right now. Give me number 5, please, right now here. Bam! That's a shocker, ain't it? That's a shocker, ain't it? Because the Dallas Mavericks right now is like an 8th.
Here's the thing, even though I'm going to give ESPN credit here, right? Here's the thing that I do not love about their coverage of the rest of the NBA. It's always in the context of who are the challengers to the Boston Celtics. Like, we cannot have a conversation about Oklahoma City or the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, while I'm glad they're finally just talking about these teams, right, which was a problem for a long time, now the conversation is exclusively about a different team whenever you bring them up, though, right? Like, yeah, you're doing it, but you're not making people feel like Cleveland is important just because Cleveland's playing really good basketball. You're making them seem like Cleveland's important because they might take down the Boston Celtics. I think this is a flawed way to go about it. I'm not saying Boston isn't an excellent basketball team. They're a very good basketball team. I don't think they deserve this treatment that they've gotten, right? We're talking about top 5 challengers to the Boston Celtics. Like, the Celtics have ran the East like LeBron did in the 2010s. Or like the Celtics ran the West like Golden State did in the late 2010s. We're giving Boston credit more than just a champion. We didn't do this when Milwaukee won the NBA Finals. We didn't spend the whole next season talking about what teams can be a challenge exclusively to Milwaukee as if there was no other conversations to have, right? Like, you could talk about Philadelphia going up against Milwaukee. Could they beat Milwaukee? Obviously, those conversations happen. But every time you brought up Philadelphia, it wasn't in the context of could they beat Milwaukee. You feel what I'm saying? There's going to be some people who intentionally try not to feel what I'm saying because they're like Boston fans, or they're like they're mad that I'm excited about the Cavs or whatever it is. But if you're reasonable, you get what I'm saying there. Like, every single conversation about the Cavaliers is framed in this can they beat Boston thing. Instead of just talking about the Cavs as a team that's just a threat to get to the NBA Finals on their own. That doesn't mean that you have to ignore Boston. But you don't have to have this conversation exclusively in that context. And it feels like the only time people praise the Cavs, it's in this context. And that, I think, is problematic because when you condition your fans, especially your casual fans, to think only Boston is a real threat to win it all, if Cleveland does beat Boston, then all of a sudden people just going to tune out. Because you didn't spend the time hyping up Cleveland. You hyped up Cleveland to hype up Boston. This is why the NBA has the issue that it does with having their brands matter as much as other leagues are able to do it. The NFL, we talk a lot about can this team get past the Chiefs, right? But the Chiefs have earned that because they were a two-time back-to-back champion. They had the best player in all of football. Like, they earned the right to have that conversation be about them because they come out the AFC for like the last 5 years. Are we going to do the same thing? Oh, can this team get past Philadelphia? Are they a threat to Philadelphia? Like, we talk about the teams, and even then, we didn't exclusively talk about the greatness of other teams in the context of could they beat Kansas City, right? We weren't like, oh, yeah, Josh Allen, why does it matter if he's going to win an MVP? Or Lamar Jackson, why does it matter what he's doing? They're not going to get past Pat Mahomes because that's just not a productive way to talk about it and not a very fun way or interesting way to talk about it. But the NBA has this focus, and the people who cover the NBA have this focus on creating a boogeyman and then framing everything in the context of can you beat that boogeyman? And I just don't think that's a good idea.
Seeds about 3 games over 500. You're looking at them. This is the playoffs we're talking about here. I think they will get there. I think Anthony Davis will be back before then. I think they will climb, and as a result, Anthony Davis and Daniel Gafford will be in a lineup with Kyrie and Clay and the crew. They're going to be a top 5 team to knock off the Boston Celtics. Pay attention.
The West does have that, though, this year, where it's like there are like 4 or 5 teams. I'm like, it's going to be a very difficult first round if they fall into that first round matchup for whoever the top team is.
Pay attention. Let's go to number 4 on the list. Please give it to me right now. Bam! The Denver Nuggets. We're talking about Jokic. That Mr. Triple Dub. Is that what you call it?
Now, do y'all remember the ESPN acting like this and spending the whole season talking about who can beat the Nuggets after the year when the Nuggets won the championship? Usually we don't do this when a team just wins one.
Mr. Triple Dub, Shay. That's what you call it, right? That brother, you see the way Jamal Murray been playing? You can't dismiss him. You can't dismiss him. I love what we've been getting from Russell Westbrook. Braun and those boys can play as well. But Jokic and Murray, when they're flowing, they're flowing. It's top 3. They top 4. They ain't top 4. Give it to me right now, please. Bam! The Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I know Shay's going to hate because it's what he does. But let me tell you something right now. When you're looking at the Los Angeles Lakers,
Sure seems like Stephen A. got over his depression really quick.
with LeBron and Luka together with them since January 15th. Best record in basketball, top-rated defense and efficiency. Can't ignore that. Got to give it to them as a top 3 candidate to knock off, or the biggest challenge, rather.
The Lakers have been playing really good basketball for like the last 2 months. I don't know what to make of it, but that has been happening.
To the Boston Celtics. They just ain't top 2 right now. Give it to me. It's obvious. Bam! The Oklahoma City Thunder, I know they had a little hiccup last night. But that brother Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, do you see him? Did you see him, ladies and gentlemen? I know you see him. He was my MVP last year. He's going to be my MVP this year. I don't give a damn.
Again, we're talking about a team that has 11 losses, and the only conversation we can seemingly have about this team is if they can beat a team that's not as impressive of them in the regular season. Not to say I don't get why they're doing this. I just think doing this is stupid.
What I'm seeing Jokic doing, that brother right there is special. Jalen Williams had 27 last night. That brother can still play. They didn't have Hartenstein last year. They got him now. Holmgren as well, an additional year of experience. So they'll have size, they'll have defense, they'll have star power, and they have a point guard that's elite. They number 2, they just ain't number 1. The number 1 threat to the Boston Celtics. is this team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell, ladies and gentlemen, is just reminding you what a star this brother is. Darius Garland has been playing better. You got Mobley and Allen. Oh, by the way, they went out and got DeAndre Hunter, a 6'8" dude that can defend on the wing, that can hit threes, that can give you about 18 to 19 a night. And oh, by the way, Strus and the brothers are there as well. Cleveland, OKC, the Lakers, the Nuggets. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about right now. This is weeks down the road. Anthony Davis and Gafford will be back with Kyrie Irving,
Here, you
the
get
Dallas Mavericks.
You can get right.
Two of the biggest challengers for the Boston Celtics have better records than Boston and have beaten Boston. But again, my beef with the way that ESPN frames this aside, right? I've said enough about that. What do I think about the ranking itself? I mean, at a first glance, it's fine. I'm not doing too much of a deep dive. It's a Stephen A list, right? Like, I'm not about to break out the books and really study and look at the PER and all that stuff to critique Stephen A. Smith. My critique with just ESPN in general is just how they choose to cover some of this fantastic stories coming out. And not saying you can't talk about Boston. Obviously, you're going to talk about Boston, the return of champions. But you don't, like, y'all watch wrestling? Let's say y'all watch wrestling. It's this thing that used to happen in WWE back in like the early 2010s where WWE was wondering, why can't anybody break out except for John Cena? But WWE kept putting these wrestlers in positions to where they could never be seen as equal to or greater than John Cena the way that they booked them on the show. And this is what the NBA is doing. Why can't we have more teams get the love that the Boston Celtics get? Well, it's because the way that you guys promote the game and the way that your media partners promote the game constantly, subconsciously put these teams under Boston, even when they've achieved more in the season that we're talking about. Right? And if it's not Boston, it'll be about LeBron or some other thing, right? This is the biggest problem that I see with NBA media partners is Turner does it, ESPN does it, everybody does it. It's a trap that everybody falls into because everybody's familiar with Boston. Not everybody's familiar with Oklahoma City. Not everybody's familiar with the Cavaliers. So instead of having conversations about how good these teams are, we're having conversations about how good these teams are only in the context of, can they beat what you are presenting as the bigger fish, Boston? So you're telling people subconsciously, these teams aren't important. What they do, it's not important unless they beat Boston. It's not a good way to go about it. It's a big mistake. Anyways, let's hear what Legs has to say.
Mark my words.
I almost shut it down immediately.
I know.
Immediately.
I see.
Because I think this is a big presumptive leap.
That's right.
With the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay.
That's a big leap right there.
Okay, not that big. When Anthony Davis and Gafford in the lineup?
Who knows when we're going to see them? Who knows when
They said a month.
And where
They said a month.
Yeah, a month. Yeah, you're talking about that. You get into mid-March.
But he's been going 2.5 weeks already.
Listen. I know the guy's impact. I need to see what that looks like first before I start thrusting them into this category right here. I know Shay's probably upset that you put
Lakers.
It is wild to put them in there.
anybody above
That's right.
the LA
Something with him.
Lakers. All right. Hey, I'll give you.
It is wild to put them in there, and we've only seen like what they look like with Anthony Davis for less than 2 quarters.
This. I'll give you this. You got it reversed though, I think. I think these two are flipped.
No.
Can the Cavaliers?
No.
Can the Cavaliers give Boston everything they can handle in the conference final? Yes, but I think most people are going to expect Boston to win that series.
The number one challenger.
I think Oklahoma City is legit. I think they're legit. I can envision at the end of all this, Oklahoma City being a champion. Like that's not for me. That's not the beyond the realm of possibility.
Cleveland being the champion. But go ahead.
Shannon?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Honestly, I think the debate should be between the 3 teams. And I think we should frame these debates between the 3 teams. Boston, obviously, you don't have a hard time imagining them being a champion because they just won it last year. Cleveland and Oklahoma City do require a bit more imagination because they've just never been in this current incarnation of these teams to the NBA Finals. So I get the hesitancy to want to put them there because you would be predicting something rare which is a breakthrough. But it does feel like somebody's breaking through. I personally feel like the momentum at this point in February feels like we could get Cavs Thunder. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. I think that'd be a very fun NBA Finals. I think the Lakers are very sneaky. They've been playing very good, but they have no bigs, and I wonder when that's going to start to matter, and I imagine that starts mattering in a 7-game series. But also another thing that matters in a 7-game series is having a Luka and having a LeBron. So I have no idea how that's going to work with the Lakers. Like, is that going to work in their favor? Is that not going to work in their favor? How do they match up against the Nuggets? That's a team that's given them hell over the last few years. So it'd be interesting to see how the season ends for the Lakers. I think the West is completely like up for grabs, and like the Thunder, the thing that I knocked the Thunder on, and it has nothing to do with the Thunder itself. I just think the path to come out the West is going to be significantly more difficult than the path to come out the East, because yes, the Cavs do have to get out the East. They have to play the best team that's not the Oklahoma City Thunder or themselves, which is Boston, and the most experienced team. But in order to get to that Eastern Conference Finals, we're talking about maybe getting through Orlando, Atlanta, in the second round. It might be New York. It might be the Pacers or the Bucks. Like, I just don't think these teams. I think these teams are in completely different tiers than where the Cavaliers are and the Thunder and the Celtics are right now. Whereas, like, with the Thunder, I feel like the Lakers could be a legitimate threat. If the Mavericks do have a healthy Anthony Davis, which is a big question mark, healthy Kyrie, which is a big question mark, they are a dangerous team at the bottom of the West there, right? Like, you got to get through the Nuggets, who low-key are just as experienced as Boston, right? And have that star player in Jokic. So I think the pathway for the Thunder is a little bit more difficult, which makes them a little bit less of a threat to Boston, if we want to have that conversation in that context. I think the Cavs are a bigger threat because they're more direct. Like, it's very likely that the Celtics are going to have to play the Cavs to get out the East and vice versa. So it feels more like it's on a head-to-head collision course. We'll see. We'll see what happens. What happens in this regular season game, and then obviously the regular season is very different than what could happen in the playoffs. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, but at least people are talking about the Cavs. I just wish we start talking about the Cavs as like a good team on their own, instead of constantly having this conversation about if they're a challenger to the Celtics. I think it's obvious they are a challenger to the Celtics. They're a challenger to win the NBA Finals, right? But that's it. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.